Done is I sent this out as part of the call. I sent out this document right here called the Aspin status flow. Hopefully all of you had a chance to take a look at this, but what we're going to do in today's training is go through this step by step. Some stuff we're going to go through quicker than others, but this is kind of the master document for you to understand the entire process of a shipment. The big thing to understand, as I mentioned earlier, is Aspin is live, so things are constantly changing. If you go through a process and you go through certain steps and you get into a habit of going through a process, a specific process each and every day, the data is going to make much more sense to you. So the way we set this up, and I set this up about 3 or 4 years ago, was to kind of break down Aspin and the whole shipment process into 8 stages. It's very important to understand these stages and the relevance of each one of them as part of the whole process. I think one area that we need to work on as a company is getting everyone to understand the stages that may not apply to them. I think we sometimes get too focused on what your task is. Like, I'm an inbound coordinator. All I need to worry about is inbound. I don't need to worry about anything else. Well, in order for inbound to properly function, you need to understand routing. You need to understand tracking. You need to understand pickups. You need to understand deliveries. You need to understand costs. There's more to it. Everything's linked together. And as you see this process and kind of what I described here with this diagram is everything flows together. We go from create a shipment to invoicing a shipment. And with that said, I'll just skip down to the very last page before I come back, because I think this is something that we all need to realize. I'm sorry about that. Get down to here is we only have one goal. And if we understand this goal, it's going to make everyone understand what we're trying to accomplish and whatever each one of us is trying to accomplish with our daily tasks. Our only goal at the end of the day is to get paid. We are in this business to make money. That's the bottom line. And if you think otherwise, maybe this business isn't for you. We want to get paid. We want to make money. We want to pay our bills. We want our vendors to pay us. If we follow this process to a T, that's going to be accomplished in the easiest manner. So remember that each and every day, our goal as a company is to make money. And we're not doing this for charity. We're not doing it because we enjoy it. We're not doing it for any other reason. We want to get paid. So everything based on my training is getting us to that goal. How can we effectively get paid, pay our vendors, pay our employees, and run a viable business for years to come? So that's our goal. And that's what hopefully we're gonna go through today and learn how to make that easy. As you see, we'll kind of go through this. I kind of broke up the chart in a few different ways. I have the stages, the 8 stages I talked about. I go through different statuses within that. I relate it here to how it relates to my AGS because not everything populates correctly. I have the responsible party. Which party is responsible? The booking station, the origin station, the handling station. It's very important to know what party is responsible for a certain task. Personnel, which personnel is responsible for a certain task. We'll get into more detail about this later in a few screens, but one thing to really point out to everyone is in our office, and I think company-wide, we're starting to transition to this, we really got to stop using the word title and use the word responsibility. We don't necessarily have titles, a station manager, an inbound manager. We have responsibilities. And it's very important that we understand that because we need to do those responsibilities. Those are responsibilities, whether or not that falls under your title. So it's very important to know that dispatch is a responsibility, not necessarily a title. Someone's got to play the role of dispatcher. In our office, if Tom, who's our dispatcher by title, is tasked with something else and he's unavailable to do that role as a dispatcher, someone has to fill that role as a dispatcher. We can't go without a dispatcher. It's a critical role. So everything when I talk about personnel is talking about responsibility and role and not necessarily title. And my hope through this whole training, and I think what we want to get to is, I don't expect everyone to be an expert in every portion of this. I just want everyone to have a full understanding of every portion of this. And you're still going to have the time that you're going to spend mostly on your specific tasks, but having an understanding of other employees and other personnel's tasks is going to make your task fit the mold a lot easier. So that's what I do here. I talk about personnel. When I talk about duration, it's very important that, and I use that term for a reason, is certain statuses were set up to be temporary statuses, and certain statuses are more longer term. And I'll go into more detail about that later, but there's certain tasks, i.e. dispatch for pickup is a temporary task. You dispatch a pickup, but that's nothing until it's confirmed. And so that's why I say that's an under 5-minute duration. You send off your pickup dispatch, it's confirmed either by an email or a response from an agent. In some cases, you might need to call and confirm it, but all dispatch pickups must be confirmed. And we've all been burned, I know it, many, many times by agents saying, I never got the pickup. I never got the pickup. So a dispatch pickup to me is nothing until it's confirmed. Once it's confirmed, again, it will go out of that status. So that's why I talk about duration, and we'll get more into that. Talk about escalation. Every situation has an escalation path, and it's very important that we understand that, whether it's escalating to the booking station, whether it's escalating to your station manager, whether it's escalating to the general office, whether it's escalating to the credit department, whether it's escalating to the claims department. Everything's always going to have an escalation path, and it's very important that we know those. We know what those are, because as things go wrong, you need to know where to find the solutions. And it's very important that each station has that escalation path, and they know it so they can follow it when things go awry. And then I put over here a summary of what kind of each thing is, and kind of put some verbiage to understand what the statuses are. We've tried as a company, and I think it's a continued process to wean down the amount of statuses we have. And we've done a really good job of it. Years ago, there was 2,000 status codes, and we were using one, and Denver was using one, and LA was using one, and Chicago had different ones they were using, and Miami had different ones they were using. And over the years, I've noticed we've gotten much more streamlined on that. And again, that's what our goal is to streamline what are critical statuses, what are very important operational statuses that everyone needs to use, and what are the one-offs that maybe a station needs for a particular client or a particular situation. So it's really important that we understand the statuses, and that we constantly evolve the statuses. Through a committee, do we need this status? What's this status good for? Do we still need this other status? What's that status good for? A good example, and I haven't updated this, is OS&D. We realized over time that OS&D was way too arbitrary. It wasn't explaining what was particularly wrong. So we've changed that now to overage is its own task, shortage is its own status, damage is its own status. So over time, we realized OS&D was too ambiguous, and we've broken it up. And this will constantly change. Just like Aspin is a living thing, this whole process is a living thing. So what I've got here on the status flow is I've tried to make this easy, again, by assigned role, not by title. But I've tried to show through a shipment process where it kind of fits into the job role. So customer service is going to be involved in creation of bills, whereas dispatch is going to handle the pickup. Routing is going to be handled usually by the outbound operations team. The inbound operations team is going to provide tracking. The inbound, might do the appointments. And again, these are things that each station can modify based on your roles and responsibilities and how you want to set it up. This is just kind of a guideline of how we do it. Where the cost audit's important, where the invoicing comes in. So I've broken down the shipment into all the steps that you go through to complete the process. Again, our goal is to get that shipment to AP as quickly as we can to bill our customers. As you see down here, I've talked about different personnel and what some of the different functions are. Station manager, customer service, outbound, inbound dispatch. I think company-wide, we are getting better and better at streamlining those. So the same titles are in Chicago, that are in LA, that are in Seattle. And as time goes on, I think that'll get more and more tight so we can understand whose job is what and whose responsibility is what. The way we operate here is everyone has a primary responsibility, and then they also have a secondary and a tertiary responsibility. So for example, Tom, our dispatcher, is out sick. Greg, who's generally an operations person, will take over as his secondary role, the role of dispatch as a primary while Tom's out. Someone then will backfill Greg's role. So we're constantly backfilling each other's role, but making sure that specific role is covered each day. What we don't want to run into, and I've run into it in the past, and I know we all have, is you call a station, you say, hey, can I talk to dispatch? Dispatch is out in the warehouse. Okay, well, I need to know this. Yeah, dispatch will call you back. We got to break that habit. Everyone needs to understand when dispatch needs to go out to the warehouse to check on something, someone needs to backfill that role, whether it's customer service, whether it's inbound, whether it's a station manager. Someone needs to backfill that role so that role, which is a critical role, is always covered. So again, we want to get in the mindset of roles and not titles. I've gone through here, and what I've tried to do here is gone through what a basic shipment process based on a general day of the week. So for example, in this example, the shipment was created on a Wednesday. It was picked up on a Wednesday. The routing was done on Wednesday. The great thing about our business, and it's gotten better. 30 years ago when I was doing this, we were flying 99% of our freight. We didn't have forward air. We didn't have land air. We didn't have trucking options. So we were using the airlines. Well, it was good and bad. The good thing about the airlines was the freight moved relatively quickly domestically. You know, New York was overnight. We had wide bodies to LA, to Chicago, to Miami, to Dallas. Freight would move relatively quickly. It didn't give us a lot of time to really track and trace and follow the evolution of the shipment. Now that things are going more on the ground, we have these days. We have days where we can clean up the shipment, where we can get our pickup costs together, where we can understand where we are in the tracking process. We have days to be proactive about our tracking, to understand that, oh God, the shipment missed a transfer point in Columbus, it's going to be delayed. We know ahead of time when things are going to happen. It's made us a better company. It's made us more proactive. So we want to use these days to get things going and to get things set up for the inbound process. We really shouldn't have as many surprises as we did in the past because we have time. We know what freight's out there. We know what's freight's coming in. We know where it is in the process. So we want to use those days to kind of get our ducks in a row. And as we go through this, I'll show you how that works. Appointments. Again, while freight is in transit, it's a good time to set up the appointment. It's a good time to make sure that, hey, I know this is coming in on Monday. Let's get these appointments set up. Let's try to get our flow good for the dispatch and for the inbound coordinator. Then obviously delivery when it happens. In this example, the delivery happens on a Monday. The big thing, and we'll cover this today, is most employees at stations, their job ends when the freight's delivered. And the freight goes into that delivered screen. You don't see it again. You go back to your live screen. You're working your board. And I've noticed things tend to die in the delivered screen. And I know Luke has done a really good job of trying to work and clean up the data. And we'll go through that more later. But we really want to understand that it doesn't end until we've billed the shipment. As I mentioned earlier, our goal is to close out shipments, to build the shipments, to make money. We don't want things to die in the delivered screen. A lot of things die in the delivered screen. The costs haven't been audited. You wouldn't believe how many times I've seen something delivered screen and it auto rates at $12 delivery and I get billed $85. No rhyme or reason, no backup, no nothing. We're going to go in today to show how to catch some of those things proactively, how to catch those costs ahead of time. Because if there are legitimate charges from an agent, they needed to use a lift gate and they charge for that. They needed to use 2-man and they charge for that. We need to capture those costs ahead of time. So if we can pass those along to the customer, we can do that ahead of time. A lot of times we bill out shipments and a week later we get billed by the cartage agent and it's too late to recapture that money. So our goal of our process is to capture cost proactively. And if you have disputes about cost, we do that quickly and in a timely manner when it's still kind of fresh in everyone's mind. But again, like I said, a lot of things for most people end here delivered. We want to follow it through cost audit. We want to follow it through invoicing. In this basic example, and this is a pretty much example for any shipment, within 7 days and maybe 10 days at the max, all shipments should be closed out. Going through a ground network, I mean, obviously, if there's appointments or down the road, that's fine. But in the flow of our standard process and the service we sell our customers on a 3 to 5 day ground, shipments need to be closed out within 7 to 10 days. It's delivered. You have a day or two to capture your charges, to dispute any charges, to request any backup information, and then let's bill it out. There shouldn't be a lot of downtime between shipments being delivered and shipments being billed out. And again, as we go through the process, and especially for station managers, that's really falls on your backs to make sure that costs are being taken care of, that shipments are getting billed out. So the way I've broken this down, as you know, is I'm going to start with the real evolution of a shipment, from shipment creation through the billing process. So obviously, our first step is, how is a shipment created? So a lot of you that are in operations, things just kind of pop into the system, and you're like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know what this shipment's all about. Well, shipments can come from multiple ways. They can be created, like I say here, via an email from a customer. It's a My AGS or a web entry from a customer. A lot of the bigger customers are using EDIs or sending over flat files of tons of shipments. It's very important that we all understand where shipments come from. And as I pull up Aspin here, I can show you. If you ever want to know where a shipment comes from, it's very simple. You can just look in here, your trace notes, and it's going to show you. Your first line is always going to show you where your shipment came from. It's always good to know where that shipment came from, because if you have to go back and ask a question, or if something's wrong with the data or something doesn't make sense, you know where that came from. This was from a file upload. In some cases, you can tell it was manually put in. So it was cloned and put in. This one was put in via My AGS. So again, customers are going to transact with us in multiple different ways. It's very important that you understand that that first line is always going to tell you how that transaction, how this was created, where did this come from? And yeah, let's see again. Most of ours, I would say most of ours are for our larger customers, like I said, are flat file. Some of the mid-range customers and you know, infrequent transactors will use My AGS. A lot of our customers will send us an email with information and we'll manually enter it. But it's very important to understand where that is, like I said, because if there is a question, you need a phone number, you need some data, you need to find out where that shipment originated from. Here's kind of some basics about a shipment. Again, very important, regardless of what your job is, that you understand the basics of a shipment. The things we need in this business are really simple. Where it's picking up from, where it's going to, what the pieces and weight are, when it needs to be there, and then if there's any reference that we need for billing. This one reference is interesting because a lot of times we don't ask. I've gotten in the habit over the years of constantly asking my customers, is there a reference number? And honestly, 9 out of 10 times there is. They just fail to tell us. But when we're dealing with transportation people, shipping departments, or whatnot, they're usually not paying the bills. Accounting's paying the bills. Accounting wants something to attach it to. They usually want a reference number. You wouldn't believe over the years of how many bills have been stuck in, you know, receivables, and we're not getting paid because we don't have the reference number on there. So always keep that in mind when asking a customer. Hey, just make it kind of your habit. Is there a reference number I need to associate with this? It'll make the accounting people happy. I promise you that. Okay, so what I'm kind of showing you here is this shipment was an email notification, so we manually are going to enter into a database. When you're manually entering some things in, you got to realize this database is pretty robust. We have things saved in here, so it's very important that you understand these search keys. F4, your friend. Oops, I missed it. Yeah. The more you use the filters, the easier lives are going to become. So when you're starting a task, whether it's for a specific customer or a specific status, filters are your friend. Because what I've done here is now all I'm viewing is PRG shipments. It takes away a bunch of the headaches. It makes the system much cleaner. Okay, I can go through here and we'll go through this. I guess I'll start now with it. What I want, and our goal is I want everyone to be able to look at a screen like this instantly and see the problems. I can see problems right here. I can see a problem here. I can see a problem here. I can see a problem here. So as you get better and as you get more skilled into viewing Viper, into viewing what it's trying to tell you, you're going to pick up on these things. You're going to pick up on the mistakes. So I see a mistake here. I need the POD. Okay. This was a no-show. Okay, now it's arrived. Okay, it was late. That's good to know. My goal here is to find the mistakes and to correct them. Okay, that has arrived now. So now I've updated it. It's very important that you spend your time on the mistakes. So when you're, and we'll get more to this in tracking or tracing, but I just want to show it to you when I'm here. It's very important that the majority of your time of your day is spent on the mistakes and proactively finding these mistakes before they become a headache. One thing we've learned about the OFDs and the PODs over the time is if a shipment doesn't have a POD in a timely manner, the odds are it did not deliver. And I hate to say it, but most people have gotten pretty good about putting in PODs. And it's surprising with the technology we have, the texting, the web entry, the crown system. That's become a lot less of a headache as it was, 10 or 15 years ago. So what I found is when the PODs aren't in there, this may not have delivered. And so again, we want to find these as potential errors. It is best that we find out something delivered proactively before our customer finds out. It's critical to our business. And I know to the sales staff that they preach this to our customers. We will tell you when something goes wrong. You won't find out from your customer. It goes a long way. It's a very important thing that I sell to customers on a daily basis. We will make mistakes, but you're going to hear it from us. And the worst part of my day, and I have to do it every day, is put my tail between my legs and tell the customer, this didn't go as planned, but this is what we're doing proactively to make it right. So not only do you want to advise the customer proactively of a bad situation, you want to let them know that you have a strategy to fix that situation. It goes a long way with customers. They understand things happen. We deal with many different parties in many different cities, and a lot of things go wrong, whether it's weather, whether it's vehicles, whether it's personnel. There's a lot of things that can make a shipment not go right. It's very important that we capture it early, we let the customer know, and we have proactive steps to solve the problem. I've never had a customer, I should say never, very rarely does a customer get extremely upset when you proactively give them information. Where they get upset is when they're getting a call from their customer giving them the bad information. So again, we have the tools here. We'll get into it more later, but I'll show you exactly how to go through and find some of the errors before they become big errors. A lot of this I'll just go through fairly quickly because it's stuff that you want to know, but you can spend some time kind of reviewing it. I've gone into pretty detailed. The moral of the story with all this is use the filters. The more you use your filters, the better off you're going to be. And whether it's tracking or tracing, whether it's setting up something for a customer, but the more you can go through and realize, you know what, I need to know what's in transit. So I'm going to use that filter. I need to know if there are any reways. I'm going to use that filter. I'm going to need to know if there's any damages. I'm going to use that filter. Do we have any open traces? I'm going to use that filter. The more you filter, the cleaner this data becomes, because looking at this is cumbersome. There's a lot of data in there that it can get confusing. But the more you can streamline it down, the easier it can become. And you can find the mistakes. So, for example, one of my pet peeves is this. I'm going to type in Monday's date right now, 03/28/2022. This is Monday. That's good. So I did Seattle booking station. I did Monday's date. I did DPU. Does that mean we don't have any pickups on Monday? No, that means that we've gotten them all covered. And we've confirmed them. So PDA, the pickups are covered. So if I take this out, take out Seattle, put DPU, same date. A lot of shipments in here that have been DPU'd out that haven't been confirmed. Okay, this is a Monday. Monday's a busy day for stations. If things haven't been confirmed and we try to confirm Monday morning, odds are an agent's going to say, you know, we didn't know we had that pickup. I'm sorry, we can't do it today. It's very important, the pickup process, and that's why I talked about it earlier, that we confirm our pickups. Most times, stations will send back and agents will send back a red receipt. It's automated. It goes into a file. It comes back to you in your email. A lot of people overlook it. When you get that email, it's very simple. Just go in and put PDA. The agent got it. Get it out of that DPU status so you can have yourselves covered. That way you can go back to the customer and say, I know you got the pickup. I got a transaction receipt showing you that you got the pickup. What I do with those receipts is I keep them in a certain folder. So I know when I get them back, and I just have a rule set up right here. So when receipts come back and things are scheduled, I know that they got them. So it's very important that you set up some rules so those can come back into a specific folder to make it really easy for you to see that you got the receipt back and it doesn't just go into a junk folder. But yeah, so here's this right now. Yeah, we got a lot of work to do Monday. Now, again, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my station. Okay, so this is Seattle. So what I can do right now is I've got these dispatches. I know we're picking them up Monday. All I'm going to do is go through. I'm going to go straight to the second screen and I'm going to PDR them. That's simple. It's very important that as you're navigating through Aspin, you use the shortcuts that Aspin gives you. One of the biggest shortcuts we have is going direct to a screen. If I want to go to the first screen, I put a 1, second screen 2, third screen, fourth screen. Very important that you do that because going through a screen like this takes keystrokes and takes time. If you know you just want to update something, go directly to the status and update it. Don't waste your time scrolling through. In addition, if you go through a bad bill that has an error in it, you're going to get locked up a lot of time going through the screens. If you notice people, if they ever use this little andouille sign, or the ampersand, that sign, if you put that in F11, a lot of times that's going to lock up the system. So you're going to get an error and you're going to lock up. You're not going to why you're frozen. It's usually because that symbol's in there. That's a symbol that's used a lot in coding. And so when it gets put in the wrong place in Aspin, it locks up the system. So a lot of times you copy and paste from an email and there's a few weird characters in there. Next thing you know, you go into the bill and it's locked up. And that's usually why it happens, is because there's a weird symbol in there that's locking it up. Anyway, it's very important that you use the filters to your advantage. As a station manager, one thing I like to do is I like to go through, I like to put in the previous day's date. I like to type in OFD. Okay, so I already know I got some headaches. I know some stuff on Friday that wasn't OFD. So I'm going to follow. I'm going to assume it's a paperwork error. I'm going to assume it might not have delivered. I really don't know. So again, Monday morning, I should say every morning, the first thing we do when we come in, this is our #1 status check, day before OFD. And we've just become patterned to become into that. So Monday morning, Savannah will come to the office and the first thing she's going to do is type in 25th and OFD. And that's her #1 task. Let's make sure the stuff we think should have delivered actually did deliver. Now, if I take Seattle out of here, this is going to probably get pretty ugly. That's really ugly. That's, 12, 24. That's 100 shipments of OFDs on Friday we don't have PODs for. So again, if everyone makes it a part of their daily task to come in and check those, we're going to clean this up really good. And use your station too. Type in your inbound station, SEA, 25th, OFD. Yeah, hey, we're missing some too. Now I can go in, I can look at this and say, hey, this is weird. I'm going to point out something on this bill right here also. This right here is a spelling error. This word is Bothell, B-O-T-H-E-L-L. There's a typo. The K is put in there by accident. I'm just going to delete them out, help them. It's very important that and typos seem like they're meaningless. All of this data in each box here is captured. If there's a typo for Bothell and you want to do a search, for Bothell, if that was misspelled, that wouldn't come up. So keystroke errors are very, very important to A, try to avoid as best you can, and B, if you see them, clean them up. Because if a keystroke error is wrong and you have an extra letter there, it's going to screw up your data. I mentioned this on the last call and I spent a lot of time on it. I'm going to mention it briefly here. Clean data is critical data. Dirty data doesn't do us any favors. So take your time, pay attention to your work. You know, as I tell my kids when they're doing their homework, pay attention to details, spelling errors, data errors, little things like that have an overwhelming impact because I can pull reports on every shipment that I had going to Bothell, Washington. Yet if Bothel's misspelled, it's not going to show up on that report. So it's very important in an AS400 environment. Each little box right here, every little thing is its own data field. So misspellings and things like that are really important to A, to keep an eye out for, and B, to try to avoid. If you see them like I just did on that one, clean it up for someone. I know what the spelling of that was. It's not doing any harm to just clean it up, make the data clean. But our goal as a company should be clean data, as clean as we can. All right, getting a little off task. You'll notice that kind of when I'm going through training, I jump around a lot as I find stuff. Hopefully it all makes sense. Again, if you have any questions, just take off your mic and speak up and I can go over something again. Cloning, I don't know if you guys do cloning a lot. Cloning is very critical to our business, especially because we do a lot of trade shows. If you do a lot of trade shows, you do a lot of data entry, you'll use the cloning fields a lot. Again, I don't need to go into too much detail on how to do it, but I show you how to do it through in this thing. It's really easy to use. It can save you a lot of time and it can populate a lot of the relevant information. Going through, this is a very overlooked screen and we don't use it nearly as much as we should, but the special instructions in screen 2 can be critical. And I'm going to show you guys what I mean by that. Okay, let's just go through one here, a live shipment. Okay, I know for Smart Source, I've been handling this account for a long time, that they're rolling cases. Rolling cases need to be strapped in the truck. I know that, dispatch knows that, most of our agents know that. But you know what? I've been burned before where agents have said, it wasn't on the bill, I didn't know that. The easy way to put special instructions on the bill is to go here, hit F9 as it says here. And if you guys obviously are familiar with Aspin, but if you're not, you don't understand, down here is often overlooked, but this is where your instructions are. This is going to show you what your shortcut keys are, what your function keys do. It's really important that you pay attention to these. A lot of times they're kind of blend in, you don't see them, but they help. And if you understand them, you know that F9 is delivery instructions. Deliver instructions, I'm going to hit an F4 to find, strap in truck, there you go. Very fragile case on wheels, must strap in truck for transit, done. Now, if you look through these, it shows customer number 5462429, that's Smart Source customer number. You can add special instructions for specific accounts, confirm pieces and weight, white glove delivery, whatever they might be, you can easily add them. Right here, F1. These are for Smart Source. I'm going to say must deliver on arrival. Whatever you want to put. Put special instructions here. This is a test. Okay. Now it's there. So now you can do that. So for customers, it's a good thing when your salespeople get new business and they come in, ask your salespeople, are there any special instructions needed for this account? Well, yeah, everything must be palletized. Go ahead, create a special instruction. Must be palletized. That's your code. Your instruction is going to be must be palletized. Okay, I got that special instruction in there now, which is great. Now, must be palletized is obviously going to be for a pickup. Again, pay attention down here. F9 with delivery instructions. F8 is going to be pickup instructions. I'm going to hit F8. There. Must be palletized. It's going to show up on your current pickup. It's going to make it easy for them to understand. We don't use that nearly enough. As you can tell, there's not a lot in here, we have some, whoops. There's not many in there right now. Some are customer specific, but again, this is very underutilized. Find out, speak with your customers, speak with your operations, speak with your sales, put stuff in there. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you keystrokes. And more importantly, it's going to save you those data entry errors. Anything that you can lock into the system permanently is going to save data entry and potential mistakes down the road. All right. So again, I show you here how to do it. So I went over it in case you have any questions in the future. I'm going to kind of go through right now screen 3. It's important to understand screen 3. Screen 3, as I mentioned in here, has dual functions. And then I'll I'll go through and kind of show you. As you notice up here, it's going to show you what the screen is intended to do. Screen 1 is to update the orders. Screen 2 is a status screen. Screen 3 is AP. Screen 4 is AR, charges. The important thing about screen 3, though, is it's a dual function screen because it's a critical operational screen. It's where we dispatch our pickups. It's where we put in our carriers. It's how we close out bills. But it's also a critical accounting feature. That's why it's called the AP screen. This is how we pay our vendors. And I'll go through this more in the cost auditing portion of this, but it's really, really important that this screen is very clean because we use it for operations, but yet accounting pulls it for accounting procedures. So it's a very important screen to pay close attention to make sure that the data in this screen is as accurate as possible. We all know Norma back in accounting, and we all know that she'll get on us when she gets bills that don't match up. We have DDC Logistics in there for $86 and she gets a bill for $200. She's going to send you an email saying what is going on. We don't like seeing those cost discrepancy spreadsheets. It means that we weren't proactive in our capture of our charges. So understand that a lot of these screens have dual functionalities. Screen 3 is a critical one because screen 3 is how we pay our bills. And one thing I know about AGS's accounting procedure is if these charges match up verbatim, they're perfect, the vendor gets paid instantly. I mean, AGS can pay, and being a vendor as well for AGS and doing cartage for AGS, I know it. If my data is accurate, I get paid within 5 days. And vendors love getting paid quickly. It's kind of the hallmark of AGS. We've all had to deal with stations and we've dispatched pickups and they say, you're on credit hold with us. And we're like, what? What do you mean we're on credit hold? And you kind of get a little fear. 99% of the time, it's because a bill's hanging out there that Norma's asked about or someone in accounts has asked about. We haven't gotten any answer, so they don't pay the bill. They're looking out for our best interest. It's important, again, I can't stress it enough that this screen is really clean with our charges and that it matches up as best we can. It doesn't need to be dead on. I think there's a little variance that AGS builds into it, but we want to be close. If I think it's going to be $86 and it's 88, I can live with that. If I think it's going to be $86 and it's $220, that's a different story because that's going to start eating into these numbers. So again, screen 3, dual role, very important to pay attention to. Screen 4, equally as important because these are the charges that our customer sees. So again, depending on what your role and responsibility is, you might not spend a lot of time in this screen, but again, it's a critical screen because I've lost accounts over time, a handful in 30 years because of service issues. I've lost dozens and dozens of accounts because of billing issues. Accounts don't like billing issues. Billing issues to them show a sign of lack of integrity. It's very important that our bills match up to what the customer is expecting to pay, whether that's an auto rate, whether that's a quote, whether that's something else. A lot of times what happens is we get charges. We needed to use a 2-man. The 2-man's in the customer's tariff. We don't know about it because the vendor didn't tell us. We pay the 2-man, we don't bill our customer for it. It can shorthand us in that. Or we bill our customer for something that we don't advise them for. It's very important that we're cohesive on screen 4 and that relates to what the service is provided by the vendor in screen 3. And again, I kind of go through this and show you how to find it, how to find the agents and whatnot. This is the agent ranking screen. Again, AGS used to use this, and I think we're getting back to it. We're not going to spend a lot of time yet on it, but just to show you guys how to operate it. You're in a bill. The one here that I'm not going to mess up. Let's go right here. I'll do it this one of these. Okay, this is traced. So we have a missing shipment right now. So it's kind of lost. I'm just going to assume for this that Forward Air lost it. So I'm going to put an S here. Oh, take that back. I can't do it here. I'm going to say Ramos lost it. I'm going to put an S here. Okay, I'm going to put an F4 here and see what my choices are. I'm going to say it was an agent failure. I'm going to type in notes. Ramos lost this. Okay, now it flags it as a service failure. Again, we don't use this enough yet, but I think we're going to go back to as more and more people understand it. What's very important about it is now I can alert my customer of a service failure if I need to. It captures it and we can report on that. And ideally for this to work, and ideally for these rankings right here to work, we got to capture service failures. And I think if we get in the habit of slowly starting to capture it, it's not mandatory now, but for my staff, I say when you can capture them, catch them, because it's important to keep historical data on vendors. The problem with this ranking system that we all kind of agreed and why it's not used as much is it only really captures the bad in an agent, and we don't really have a way to capture the good. Sometimes cartage agents go above and beyond, and they provide exceptional service, and the customer's thrilled and we're thrilled. We need to be able to give them a bonus ranking for that. Right now, service failure is a really negative thing, and we want to be able to put a positive spin. So you have a failure, hey, but you know what? You did 3 things really good. Maybe that failure is not going to hurt your ranking as much. It might just be a one-off. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but know it's there. Again, the system is really robust, and it has a lot of features and functionalities that we're not currently using or implemented, but knowing as we get better with it and more people get better with the basics, the more we can start incorporating some of this other stuff. Dispatching, okay, email again. I don't know how you guys are dispatching, but we want to get out of the printing. Don't print your dispatches if you're doing it now. Email them, but don't print them. There's no reason for you to have a paper copy of something that you sent someone else. It's just kind of a waste of paper, and it creates a cumbersome snapshot in time that you don't need. So always email your dispatches. With that said, if you can, try to email all your information. Keep things as streamlined as possible. Okay, as I was talking about earlier, a shipment is not confirmed until you get that response back. And as I showed you earlier, and it's disappointing, we don't want this. We don't want to pull up DPU and see a lot of this, especially with Monday's date on it, because it's a cause for concern. So we want to address this, and again, make it someone's role and responsibility that, hey, 12 o'clock on Monday, go through and type in tomorrow's date, check what's DPU, and follow up. And it might be as simple as just going into your email and making sure you got this. Someone sent it back. 24/7 in Orlando. In my opinion, one of the finest agents we have. Their communication is flawless. They confirm every pickup. They send over all the routing. They send over all the paperwork. They put all their charges in. Very, very good operating agent. One of the best. With that said, I'm going to show you something they do that I don't know if you all even know. Some agents web enter their charges. And if you go to Orlando, they're great at it. It can save you a lot of headaches and a lot of emails asking for charges. They always put their charges here. 24/7 is great with that. If the charges aren't there, the only reason they're not there is because it's a consolidated delivery, and 24/7, again, being a good agent, always ask for consol paperwork to make sure we're getting the best applicable rate for that delivery. So I get constant emails where from 24/7. Can you please send us a console for this? I'm sure we all do, but it's great. They're looking out for our best interest. They're saving us money. They do a really good job, though, of going in and putting in those charges. And here's a good example. I go through this bill. It auto rates 24.74. I hit F11. 19.77 is all they're charging us. Yeah, I just saved us $5. Okay, there we go. Those charges are in now. So look for that when dealing in Orlando. I don't know how many people even know that that's what they're doing, but look for that because they're one of the few agents that does it religiously. And one thing we don't want to do is close out shipments again with inaccurate charges. Let's see if I can go here. 47.39. They charge us 114.88. So again, the more you get looking for the data, the more you can see. So they're charging us 114.88. I don't know if that's right or not. So if I don't know that's right, what I'm going to do here, so I'm going to change that. I mean, the bill's already been AP'd. Bill's already been AP'd, so really all I'm going to do here is put in their charges. 114.18. Okay, again, the biggest headache for accounting and the thing that I think frustrates accounting more than anything is when numbers don't match up. If you're an accountant, your goal is to have the numbers match up. So as operations people, we need to do our due diligence to make sure we do everything in our power to make sure that those numbers are accurate. The terrible word that we all hate is reconciliation. We don't want to think that we're making $5 and in essence we're losing $10. It throws off our budget. It makes accounting pull their hair out. It makes managers' P&L statements go upside down. It's not good for business. If we're going to lose money on a shipment because of we didn't capture the charges correctly and we therefore thus didn't bill our customers correctly, shame on us. So it's very important that we pay close attention to the accounting functions there. All right, so again, I'm going to go through this part of it really quick. This is really nuts and bolts of how to send pickups. If you don't know how, go through and spend some time reviewing this. It's pretty detailed, but it's going to show you how to confirm pickups as we did. It's going to show you how to consolidate pickup manifest. Again, I guess I'm mentioning this thing 24/7 always consolidates. If we consolidate, and most of our agents are contractually required to consolidate, per terms with AGS, it's going to save us a lot of money. The amount of times that we should have consolidated and we don't it gets egregious. And so we got to pay attention to where we can consolidate pickups and deliveries, because the savings can be dramatic. If you're billing 12 shipments and it's consolidated as one, it can make a big difference. As you see, we break down stuff in Seattle into certain things to help routing. So we go from, ideally, we want to have PFC as a status. Hey, we know it's on board the truck. That's great. We try to do it the best we can. It doesn't happen as routinely as we need it to. With that said, though, OHO is very, very critical. Our ops staff puts everything into OHO, and it's a signal to those that will be doing that evening's routing what they need to route. So when our night people, what they're looking for is OHO. It's a big status that they're going through to see what is on hand that I need to route. With that said, if you filter by OHO, we have a few, okay. These are things we need to look for. Okay, do these need to be routed out? OHO is a great status to try to figure out what's sitting there gathering dust and what needs attention. So as a manager, what you want to do is go into these bills and see what's going on. This one's got me mind boggled. I don't know what's going on. It looks like it was picking up. It came back. I don't really know. So I know I'm going to need to address this. One thing we don't want, if I take, at least I only have 3, if I take out SEA, we got a ton in here. We got a ton going back to last year. We want to clean this up. OHO is something we want to clean up as best we can. There might be a perfectly viable reason that this is still sitting in LA. There might not be. So always pay attention to your OHOs because it's usually a signal that something got left behind and needs to be addressed. So again, OHO is an important one to try to keep as clean as possible to understand, see, great. Nick did a great job here. He sent an email to Columbus looking for an update on an aging shipment. That's exactly what a manager should be doing. Going in, finding a needle in the haystack and asking a question, why is this still like that? Routing. Okay, routing. Again, I'll go into this just kind of quickly here. A lot of people don't deal with this on a daily basis, but it's very important that you understand routing. The critical thing that I'm going to bring up about routing and those that are doing routing is, and I said it before and I'll keep pounding it in, data is critical. It's very important that these dates, when you're doing your outbound routing, are as accurate as possible, especially when using forward air. If you haven't memorized the forward air schedule from your origin, you probably should. If not, it's on their website and it's easy to access. Just go here, go to schedules, go to transit times. Learn it, understand it, use it because it's really, really important. What frustrates us when we're doing our inbound is dependent on that information right there. These dates matter to us. So when I'm doing my inbound, I look here. These dates are what we go by. These dates are critical to us. This is how we plan our drivers for the upcoming weeks. This is how we plan our routes for the upcoming weeks. This is where we see if we need to hire temp labor for the upcoming weeks. Based on the data here, on what we expect to be coming in, this is how we plan. So these dates right here are really important. And a lot of times when people are closing out bills, they don't pay enough attention to it and they just throw in a random date or a close to date, and it's not as accurate as it should be. These dates need to be critically accurate. So again, I showed you where to find them. If it's a flight, put the flight details. In this case, it's a truck, that's fine, put truck. But if you know a flight number and it's an airline, put this as specific a detail as possible so we don't send people on wild goose chases looking for something we know is not going to be there. Also very critical, and again, this is something that a manager needs to pay attention to. And I'll kind of segue where this is becoming our system. Our system does a great job of capturing reways. Okay, one thing about forward air, and if you don't know, forward air has a very, very strict rule on replying to reways. If you don't get them and they don't have a chance to reway it while it's in their system, you pay what they build, period, end of story. And we can fight with them till the cows come home. They don't budge on that. They are very, very strict and it's contractually written in. They're very strict on their reway policy. So when you see reways, and if I go back, there's way too many reways on here that haven't been addressed. We need to address reways immediately. And it's simple. It might be as simple as just a reway. Let's look at this one. Forward air reweight to 355. We had 355, okay? So although it's a reway, it's not going to impact, it's not an impactful reway. Oops. Customer needs to be, I can take it out. I addressed it. Again, it wasn't really a reway. It doesn't affect our bottom line. There we go. Some might affect it. Okay, they reweighted it to 412. That's interesting. Okay, they reweighted. Okay, this was a pretty big reway. It might be legit, but what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do this. It's very important that as part of your process, especially for your managers, that you're checking reways. Because right now I have basically 24 hours to get this to forward air before they say no go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and do, whoops. This is a reway. I'm going to screen 3. I'm going to go Charlotte to JFK. Okay, so I had 4,800 pounds. Let's see what Forward Air did this at. So I'm gonna type in here 80479. I'll show you this. If you guys don't know this, one thing you can do, it's very easy. You can just copy and paste. Put your cursor over there, hit the little copy button, and you can paste. If you're not doing that, it can save you a lot of time. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go into Premiere. I'm going to sign in. Oops, I'm going to put this back in. This seems like tedious work. This could save us tens of thousands of dollars over time. Okay, so they reweight it to 52.45. I'm going to look at the detail, see if I need to change anything. Okay, so they redimmed it. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark this reweigh. In this case, I'm going to trust Forward Air's right because I know this customer. We deal with them all the time. I know that we do repalletization. With the new Forward Air rules, we have to repalletize. Our agent in Charlotte, Logistics Worldwide, does a pretty good job. We told them in this specific case, this is a hot new store opening. The freight has to move it. We know we didn't have a chance to reweigh it. They didn't have a chance to redim it. That's no problem. We'll capture it. I'll mark it for staff and come in Monday morning. We'll update. We'll pull the bill off. We'll update the DIMS to match and we'll capture our cost. We don't want to think we're paying $969 when we're paying $1,200. Okay, that's too big of a variance. I also don't want to bill my customer for 4,800 pounds when I can bill them for 5,200 pounds. So 52 for 400, that's 400 pounds. That's going to be an extra $300 or $400 that I can bill this customer. So again, very critical that we pay attention to reweighs. And someone, again, going back to that roles, someone's role every morning in my office, Aaliyah's role is, your role is to check the reweighs. Again, you have to check them quickly. You have to check them effectively. 9 out of 10 times did I send Forward Air a reweigh notice saying you are inaccurate. They correct it, no questions asked. So they usually don't push back a lot, especially when they are kind of too lazy and don't want to spend the time redimming it. They'll trust that we're giving them accurate information. You have to let them know about it, though. It's critical. And again, I can't stress it enough how important that the reweigh is. So pay attention as part of, in this thing, I kind of put it as a managerial task. Someone needs to be confirmed with that these numbers are matching up. We've gotten in the habit system-wide of being a little bit too lazy with the system and trusting that, hey, Forward Air is going to bill us that. Because the great thing is, especially out of Charlotte, 9 out of 10 times, the reweighs are in our favor. Forward Air, a lot of times, let's see ones that I fixed here. So if you look at this example, Forward Air was going to, we auto rated at 557. They really only billed us 309. So if I had left the auto rate in there, we would have, our P&L would have showed that we're paying 557. We're really only paying 309. It's $200 less. We get to realize that profit immediately versus having to wait for Forward Air reconciliation, receivable reconciliations. Again, as I stated earlier, we want to keep this data clean. So reweighs work both ways, but a lot of time I've noticed they work in our favor. So again, thought we were paying 557, we're only paying 309. And a lot of that is because of this. Forward Air sometimes doesn't charge us off the dim weight. They can charge us for 700 pounds of dim weight. Usually they don't redim, especially when they're busy. Some stations do, some don't, but you'll start to find habits of who does what and where. But a lot of times, in this case, I thought we were paying 714. We really only paid 542 or 454, I mean. So again, it's a $300 cost savings. So basically I just made the company $300 without even trying. Now, reality, Forward Air would bill us the proper amount. We would get the bill for 454, but after a reconciliation process. So we're not going to capture that profit for 60 to 90 days later. This way we can capture that profit immediately and keep your P&L clean. So again, I can't stress that enough. Task someone with reweighing, build it in as part of your process. It's very important that you do it immediately and you do it effectively. And if you do it religiously every day, it just becomes habit and you won't think about it. All right, we've been doing this for an hour now. Let's just take a little 5-minute break. So if anyone needs to use the restroom or grab some coffee or tea or whatnot, then I'll jump back on here in about 5 minutes.